me post this for you here. And this explains what tangents are and shows the common ones. Now, these are tangents in comics, but the same thing applies to animation for the most part. So basically what a tangent is when two or more lines interact in a way that insinuates a relationship between them that the artist did not intend. That is, oh, I did do a talk on tangent. Hey, there you go. So a tangent is basically an illusion that is created by two interacting elements. So for example, we have a tangent here, the long line, where a line from one element, in this case the hat, is lining up with the line of the barn in the back and creates the feeling of one continuous line. In animation, you might see this where, let's say I've got this sword here and I have it posed out, and then I have my hand like maybe lined up something like this, and creates the feeling of a flat plane between them. Even though it's not just one black line, we are insinuating a connection between these by lining them up perfectly with each other. So something like that. Instead, you would want to break that up. So maybe something like this. That would break up that line, make it a little bit more interesting. You have the parallel, two lines parallel with each other. I see this a lot with posing, when people pose two characters together, a lot of the limbs will just be parallel to each other. So let's go full screen again. So if I have one arm here and then the other arm there, they're parallel to each other. And it makes this kind of unnatural feeling to the pose. It feels mechanical and boring. So we just want to offset that. So one line is not parallel to the other. It's really just breaking up those interactions, and it could be like lines like this between the two arms. It could be a background element. So for example, we've got that shelf right here, and if I was to line up my hand just perfectly parallel to that, that's a tangent. I've got the shelf back there, so if I had my sword here and I accidentally lined it up right parallel to that, that's a tangent. So you have to just watch out for your screen elements as well as your posing elements. Now, the corner, this is another big one, when one line connects into the gap of another. So in this case, the corner of his cheekbone with the line of the building, the corner of his shoulder, corner of his neck there. I see this happen a lot in posing, especially again with multiple characters, where you might have like the corner of your elbow joint here, and something else lines up right into that. Even though like it's ahead of the other, something like that, it creates a tangent, a weird optical illusion that draws our eye right into there. It makes us focus there. Instead, try to avoid that. A little higher, a little lower. Look for those corners, like the neck, the legs, the arms, the armpit, like anything like that where there's a corner. You don't want another line to go right into it. The bump up. This is the most common tangent. And this is what normally as animators, when we say, oh, you have a tangent, this is what we normally mean like 90% of the time. It's when two lines bump up against each other. And this also applies to the edge of the screen. But this is a great way of losing depth in your shot. It basically creates the illusion that two things are right next to each other. So the common exercise I do here is you've got both hands here. If I put them side by side right there, we can see that these hands are side by side. They're the same size. If I bump them up against each other, yep, even more proof that these hands are side by side. Now, if I bring them forward and back, we can see, one's back and one's forward because of the size difference, the perspective. Now, if I overlap like this, yes, now even more proof that one's ahead of the other. But if I do this and bump them up against each other, they are obviously not touching because one's very far in the back, one's closer, but it creates the illusion that now I have one tiny little baby hand and one like normal hand, very pale normal hand, but it creates the illusion that they are next to each other, that they're bumping up against each other, and it destroys the feeling of depth. Same thing with background elements. Now in this background, it's going to be a little less so because we've got that depth of field, the blur. But if I was to line up my hand and accidentally line up right to like the shelf there, that creates that feeling of flatness. It destroys the depth of my hand overlapping or being in front of that background element. So this is the most common one, and we have to be very careful of that one. Directional is similar. It's very similar to the line or the parallel. It's basically you have one element that creates a shape that then leads right into another shape. And it's not always bad. And actually he says this one here, this one's isn't always bad because you can use that to direct the audience's eye, but sometimes it'll be so obvious that it feels distracting and noticeable. So we want to watch out for that. Panel to panel, fake panels, we don't have to worry about that as animators because this is more for comics when you've got images side by side. We do our images sequentially, so they're all one after the other. We don't usually have to worry about that. But one thing we do have to worry about is a tangent that happens between cuts. So let's say you have like a sword here, like pointed there, and then in the next frame you have it cuts and then there's a hand that's pointed in that same direction and in the same position, or at least kind of close, where maybe this was, let's see, pointed this way, and then the next one, like so you get that and then cut and the hand goes there, and it creates this illusion of a flow between those two cuts. We have to watch out for that. It can draw the eye in weird ways. It's very rare, but it does happen. So those are tangents, and I would recommend just bookmarking this page. I love this page. It explains things very well. And once again, that's the Schweitzer Guide to Spotting Tangents. And we have to watch out for pretty much all of these, except for the panel ones, which we look more for the cuts. And spotting tangents and kind of cleaning them up is not always necessary. It just makes for a cleaner composition. So yeah, hopefully that helps.